Welcome to the Critical Conversations podcast. Former Prime Minister Najib Tun Razak was recently invited to officiate at the second Penang International Business and Investment Summit. His visit, like so much of what he does these days, stirred much controversy, as you can see from the newspaper clippings that I have put on screen. Now, Najib, as you know, is a convicted felon. He was found guilty on all 7 counts of criminal breach of trust, abuse of power, and money laundering, and sentenced to 72 years in prison. The appellate court judge called him a national embarrassment. But that didn't stop the organizers from inviting him to deliver the keynote address. Of course, many people were upset. Who in their right mind would think of honoring a convicted felon in such a manner? The organizers, who clearly have their own agenda, justified their invitation to Najib with a number of bizarre arguments. They insisted, for example, that the invitation should be viewed from an economic rather than a political perspective. Najib, they said, is an economics graduate, a leader with expertise and vision. Then they said that the issue of whether Najib was liked or disliked was a subjective one. And since the Chinese community found a way to work with Tun Dr. Mahathir, despite him being a quote-unquote hated figure, there was no reason why they ought not to also work with Najib. But here's the thing, no amount of self-serving arguments can obscure the fact that Najib is a convicted felon and that inviting him was morally indefensible, terribly ill-conceived, and in extremely poor taste. Najib's academic qualifications are completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter how many degrees he has. He's a convicted felon. It matters not if he has wisdom, experience, or vision. He's still a crook who abused his office for personal gain. He may have ushered in an era of prosperity and stability, but there's still no escaping the fact that he betrayed the trust of the people and abused his office. And let's be clear, this has nothing to do with liking or disliking him. It has everything to do with his criminal conviction. The analogy the organizers drew with Mahathir is a false one. Mahathir may be disliked, but he was not found guilty and convicted of serious crimes. And therein lies the difference between the two men. If the organizers cannot or will not see how morally wrong it is to honor, even celebrate a convicted felon whose actions have done so much harm to the nation, then they simply do not understand what so many Malaysians are fighting for. A better nation where integrity in public office matters, where good governance is valued, where politicians respect the law and are subjected to it. Shockingly, the organizers even justified their invitation on the grounds that Chinese businessmen had prospered under Najib's rule. Are they saying that the Chinese business community values profit over principle? Dishonesty over integrity, corruption over good governance? Isn't that exactly the kind of shibboleth the Chinese businessmen and political leaders have long endeavored to dispel? Thankfully, the short, sharp rejoinder from the Penang Chinese Chamber of Commerce, which quickly distanced itself from the event, and which represents more than 10,000 members, I might add, set the record straight. Business people, they said, always emphasize that leaders should have integrity and are free of corruption. Najib had committed a crime. He's not welcome here. The organizers also insisted that Najib's participation should not be politicized. Clearly, they forgot to tell Najib that. His attendance at the conference, and indeed his whole visit to Penang, was pure political theater from start to finish. It was another one of those carefully choreographed events put on by Najib's team to make Najib look great again, to shift the focus away from his criminal conviction. It was all hype designed to cement his position among gullible UMNO BN supporters as their indispensable leader. Indeed, the whole visit to Penang was nothing more than a charade, an affront to the rule of law, and an insult to the people of Malaysia, who will have to pay dearly for the billions that were misappropriated. In the end, the whole affair reflects as badly on the organizers as much as it does on that convicted felon who prances about without shame or honor. I'm Dennis Ignatius, and this is the Critical Conversations podcast. Thank you.